still. The other guy you did mention, though, the potential 101, as of now, he was my 101. Again, maybe I'm adjusting for Pitts eventually, but that's Najee Harris. He couldn't have picked, a more perfect location for this guy. To me, a pure 3-down horse landing in Mike Tomlin's offense that just has fed the 3-down horses when they have them. So I know he wasn't your RB1 in your actual rankings. We're going to get into that guy maybe next in a little bit. But what do you think about this landing spot for Harris? I know you mentioned he could be your potential 101 if it wasn't Pitts. Why is that? What do you like about this fit here?
Yeah, I like the kid a lot. And obviously Pittsburgh loves him. You don't see a lot where the team, it leaks out the prospect in advance where they're not in the top 5, but like we knew that Pittsburgh was going to take him, so that was sort of funny. And then of course it happened, the marriage was consummated, etc. But like you mentioned, it's a perfect fit. It's like Najee was like, if you were to build a Steelers back, at a lab, it would be Najee, and his last name is Harris, to just add even more for the Pittsburgh fans. And then as far as what he brings, what he won't bring is explosive runs. So that's the one thing you will not see from him, despite very heavy usage in college. He scantily ran for, had 20 plus yard runs. But what will you get? It's basically everything else. He's a tremendously efficient running back. You're not getting him behind the line. All that stuff. And then, but the bigger thing with him, cause he's the grinder and, everything like that. But where I think he really adds the value is as a receiver, he becomes what is a second receiving tight end on the field. Or if you're running 12 personnel, it's basically a third receiving tight end on the field, because he's a 235 pound, 240 pound kid with athleticism who has the wingspan of a 6'5" guy. And he doesn't drop anything that you put within that Venus flytrap catch radius of his. He also runs really good routes, which is, by the way, a difference I think between of him and ETN. ETN mostly just does dump off stuff, and then he's trying, same thing, looking for an alleyway to explode down. But he doesn't, there's a difference between Alvin Kamara, for instance, and ETN. Kamara, he can do the wheel routes and, break linebackers' ankles, running in space, stuff like that. Like ETN doesn't do that kind of stuff. Harris is not that kind of mover, but he, a sudden mover, but he's extremely smooth for a guy that's that big. The agility's good. And then of course the power as well, but he's, people might be a little bit surprised in his rookie year who maybe just think of him as like a mauler. He has more agility to his game. And that's incorporated play to play more. I think that's one thing that's going to surprise NFL fans. And he's able to screw with defenders' targets, when they're on his doorstep, basically, and turn what could be flush targets into off targets, just by his footwork, stuff like that. And obviously he's very hard to bring down. So very good pick. He's going to be able to handle heavy usage, both in the running game, also in the passing game. He did it for the last several years. We were surprised Najee Harris didn't come out in the last class. He really bet on himself to go back. And with running backs, that is almost always a terrible bet to bet on yourself. Bryce Love did it, and it's one of the big regrets of Bryce Love's life. But like Najee came back, and he actually improved his stock. And not only that, he got a championship ring and all this sort of stuff. And even though he handled heavy usage at Alabama, he did not get injured. He was, extremely durable. One of the big reasons that Derrick Henry was an effing stud at Alabama. One of the reasons he fell down the board was the whole thing of like, oh, with this workload, there's no way he makes it beyond 3 seasons. Like, you might get a couple seasons out of Derrick Henry, but that's going to be it. He's going to break down, all these 300, touch things, whatever. But like, he was extremely durable in college. And sometimes a dude's just durable in the same way that sometimes dudes are just injury prone. You know what I mean? And like, to this point, Najee has been, and again, he handles the workload and he handles it with aplomb. You're going to get you're not getting you're not getting explosion, but you're going to get efficiency from him every single touch.
Love it. And that's exactly what Mike Tomlin, who literally is on record saying, I'm a featured runner type of guy. That's my mentality. I want a guy that the team can rally on. He cited it as like a leadership thing. Like, that's exactly what you're talking about here with Najee Harris. I think you said it's made in a lab. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they average his running backs over the last, from 2014 to 2018, before James Conner kind of evaporated into dust these last couple of years, 24.7 opportunities, attempts and targets per game. I mean, that's like a third to maybe even a half of your offense every single game, maybe even 2/3 of your offense, depending on how many plays you run, we're going to the running back. And the results have obviously been great. Le'Veon Bell, 23.2 per game, 18.5, 26.5, 22.8. D'Angelo Williams averaged over 23 points per game. D'Angelo Williams was like 35 at the time. James Conner had 22.3 points per game in that 2018 season, and he even had 18 points per game before he got hurt in 2019. And we just forget about 2020 because 2020 was just useless last year for that backfield. But yeah, it seems like everything is just perfectly set up. I know the line, there's some concerns there, but to me, it's just such a just gel-like, glove-like, whatever you want to call it, fit. The Steelers and Najee. So he is my number one, but maybe Pitts, again, that edge of tight end has got me reconsidering.
I'm going to keep working
things.
on you, Wolf. I'm going to keep working on you.
I like it. It's got me at least considering it for right now. The only other